We'll begin with opening comments from Gregg and then take your questions.
Thanks, Michael. It's been a great fall for this group. You know, we've been tested in a number of ways in September against Asian opponents, and then in October against strong Germany team and Ghana, a World Cup, both World Cup participants. And now it's time to move on into competition mode. We see this November camp as a way to put us on track to reach our objectives. And two of them are certainly to defend to get our third Nations League title. And then secondly is to play in the summer of 24 Copa America. So looking forward to this group. I think we have a talented group in camp. And for us, it's really about the right mindset and really embracing this competition against Trinidad in a home and away series. Thank you.
Thanks, Gregg. We'll start with questions and begin with Henry Bushnell from Yahoo.
Hey, Gregg, appreciate your time, and thanks, Michael. I guess I'll start with the semi-obvious question. With Tim and Christian both out, what are your plans for the winger position? And I guess also if you could give us any just updates on their health.
Yeah, you know, both of them, it's not too serious, but unfortunately aren't going to be able to participate in this camp. And you know, we see them on track to get back to play soon, but you know, it's too short of a deadline, so they won't be involved. And for us, it's, you know, we're used to this type of thing, Henry. Think about World Cup qualifying and all the adjustments we've had to make as guys drop off, particularly this time of year as the pitches get heavy, as the game schedules get loaded. You know, the players are always at risk. So, you know, we'll adapt. We'll put guys in the field that are prepared and know what we're doing on the field, and we'll make a good impact.
Next will be Michael DeCourcy from the Sporting News.
Yes, Gregg, I realize that you can't share every strategic change you'll make, but is there the possibility that players who might be currently listed on the roster as midfielders might find themselves playing in those positions where Tim and Christian would be?
I think so. I mean, you know, we always have a fluid attack. We have players maybe lining up as wingers and dropping deeper into midfield or into the pockets, maybe pushing the fullbacks higher. So there's a number of different things we can do. You know, our objective is to put players in the right positions that they can make an impact based on their skill set and really taking advantage of each and everyone's individual strengths.
Next will be Paul Tenorio wearing some spanking new athletic gear, it looks like.
This is a throwback, actually, but broke it out of the closet for today. Gregg, to follow up on that, you mentioned World Cup qualifying. You did have a lot of different guys step up when players went down. Brendan was one of those. But how big of an opportunity is this for Kevin Paredes, for Alex Zendejas to show that they have a place in this team, that they can be counted on in these moments when injuries kind of inevitably pop up?
Yeah, I think for any player, you know, guys that have been around, guys that are starters most games, guys that are getting the opportunities, for any player, this is a good opportunity, right? It's very clear that at the end of these two games, we want to be in the semifinals of the Nations League. We want to be qualified for Copa America, and we have to do that as a unit. You know, we're a collective team, and it's about everybody stepping up. We are used to this because of, you know, having to adapt to injuries before. And this is just something that the guys are completely comfortable with. We'll give them the right confidence. And we are completely sure that the guys will be ready to play.
Next will be Ron Blum from the Associated Press.
You may be.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Right. Sorry about that. Have a loaner computer. How much of a concern is it Matt being dropped last weekend? And are you worried long term about him fighting for a spot there? And with Ethan's situation there, it looks like he's not going to get any first team minutes at all.
Yeah, you know, Ethan's situation is temporary. We hope in the winter things will be sorted out where he will start to get game time. I had a conversation with Matt. I called him immediately, and this is part of playing in the best league in the world, right? I mean, this is all part of a player's journey. There's ups and downs. And for him, it's about being mentally strong enough to endure this. And you've seen it. You see it every week. Players get dropped, and for him, it's about having the right mentality. And we spoke about it. He's refocused, and he's competing every single day in training, and wait until he can get an opportunity again.
We'll go to Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. Greg, good to see you. Thanks as always for your time. Just to go back to how you replace Christian and Tim. Two guys that are probably candidates there, Brenden Aaronson and Gio Reyna. They're not playing 90 minutes every week for their clubs. Obviously you were managing Gio's minutes last month. I mean, how much can they play at the moment? If they're called on to play the full 90, can they? How does that sort of complicate things for you going into this camp? Thanks.
Yeah, well, fortunately in these games, you do have 5 substitutes. So we can work around that. In the World Cup, we had planned subs based on the fitness of our players. So I don't see any reason why we can't do this in a 2-game series. But, looking at Gio in his league play, getting extensive minutes in the previous game and did a good job the game before Bayern Munich, and building his fitness up, being confident that he can go past 45 minutes. Brenden Aaronson is, he's a guy that does everything each and every day in training to make sure he maintains his fitness. And there's another guy that can play extensive minutes. Kevin Paredes played 80+ minutes in his game last week. So, we think there'll be candidates that can give us what we need from a playing style standpoint and execute that role.
Next is Jeff Carlisle from ESPN FC.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, Greg. Obviously, Tyler is missing too, and that's not a surprise. But I was wondering what your assessment was of players coming out of the last window. Guys like Cardoso, Leonard Maloney, Luca De La Torre. Guys who are going to probably pick up the slack minutes wise. For Tyler Adams.
Yeah, Johnny, I think has done a good job. We saw him with his club as well, and he's playing really well. So he's a candidate that can come in and play. We also, have Eunice who's played there for his club recently. Weston, who's played centrally again with his club and has moved wide at times. So there's a number of candidates. Luca, I was able to see him play in Spain last week, and he did a good job. So we have plenty of candidates, and for us, it's about, our collective performance, getting guys focusing on what we want to accomplish in these 2 games, and really having the mindset to be aggressive in these 2 games.
Next will be Simon Evans.
Hi, Greg. Just on Trinidad as an opponent, I mean, obviously there's a history there, and it's been a tricky opponent from time to time. But they had a pretty poor Gold Cup. I wondered what your assessment of this current Trinidad side is. And just an update, if I may, on Luca Coglioscio, who's been playing regularly Premier League football. I know his last international allegiance appeared to be Italy. Has there been any talks, any further developments on maybe persuading him to become part of the US setup?
No, I speak to Luca regularly, and everything happens in due time, and we're in continual conversations. So we'll see what happens on that end. Regarding Trinidad, they didn't have a great Gold Cup. I think they mixed up their squad after that, had a strong Nations League qualification group, and did well in that. We don't take any opponent lightly. I think that's the starting point. We know how difficult these games can be. And we're focused on performing at our levels. And that's the important thing here. I mentioned it before, but it really is having a professional mindset, having the right mindset to go and get the job done. We see this as an obstacle for us to achieve our goals, and we want to get past this obstacle. And I know the team will be very focused on our performance in both games.
Next will be Brian Sciaretta from American Soccer Now.
Thank you, Michael. Greg, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Paxton Arens. Now you got 2 brothers on the team. What got him on the inside of the bubble? Was it the injuries? And I know he's still not a regular starter at Eintracht, but what have you seen in his progress that got him this call? Thanks.
You know, I've had a lot of conversations with their sporting department at Eintracht Frankfurt, been tracking his progress, was able to speak to Marco after the last Olympic team camp. And he's done a good job, you know, and it's about opportunity, right? And when two guys go down, opportunity opens up for another player. And what we see him as is, you know, a winger similar to Christian in the fact that he gets in the penalty box and he's dangerous in front of goal. And that's what we focus on with our wingers. We know goals are a premium, and he's a young player that has shown that he has the knack for scoring goals. And the starting point is arriving in the penalty box, which he does really well. You know, he's got an interesting profile with his quickness and his ability to get out of trouble. We think he's, you know, good at pressing. He's got a lot of things that show us he's going to be an excellent player in the future. And now is the time to give him an opportunity.
Next will be Charlie Bone from MLSsoccer.com.
Hi, Greg. I wanted to ask you about your center back outlook in general, and then specifically for Miles Robinson, the only domestic-based player, I believe, on the current roster, and where he fits into things, and how you've evaluated him in the current season, the playoff run, and then also what you see from him in the future, because he has an interesting winter ahead, it seems.
Yeah, you know, Miles is a guy that we really believe in. We've seen his growth over the last couple of years, and it's been really fun to see. Unfortunately, the last World Cup, he had to miss out because of an Achilles injury, but he's back and he's playing at a good level now. And, you know, we hope that his team continues on in the playoffs and he can make a deep run and get tested in those games also. But regarding the center back position, I tell you, this was a really difficult sector to make decisions in. Mark McKenzie's playing really well. I got to see him at Genk. He's playing well with his team. You know, Austin Trusty's broken in playing in the Premier League, and he's a guy that we see on the rise, potentially coming up. You know, John Brooks is playing in Hoffenheim every week. So it is, you know, there's some tough decisions to make in that group. We went with guys that have been here in the last camp that you know, we feel will get the job done in this camp. But what I'd say is, you know, those other guys are being monitored closely as well.
Just one note, since we're talking about center backs, Tim Ream made his debut for the U.S. national team November 17th, 2010 against South Africa, almost 13 years to the day before we play the match against Trinidad on November 16th in Austin. We'll continue with Donald Wine.
Thank you, Michael. Hey, Greg, I want to go back to an earlier point that Paul was making about Kevin Paredes, you know, him calling in, he's done well for Wolfsburg. He's played in a lot of positions at Wolfsburg. Even at DC, when he was back in DC United, he was playing a lot of fullback and wing back, and you have him listed as a forward. So I think my question is, where do you see him fitting into the offense? Is he going to be playing more of a forward position, or do you expect him to be the versatile player that he's proven to be so far in his young career?
You know, we really like his versatility. When I first saw him at DC, you know, I immediately thought, you know, this is the left back of the future, a guy that can really step into that role. And, you know, for us, we have a lot of, you know, we've been watching his work in Wolfsburg, impressed with what he was able to do in last game as a wing back. And, you know, think that he's versatile. So we like that versatility, especially as we have needs in the winger position. We think he's a guy that can slide in nicely. You know, he played in the Oman game, did a good job. He came in the Germany game as a winger, did a good job. So he's just continued to make progress, and you know, we're excited to be working with him.
We'll go to Michele Giannone from Univision.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, Coach. Hope you're doing well.
Hey,
I wanted to ask you about another candidate to play in Christian's or team's position, which is Alex Sendejas. I don't think he's in the field with you, but he was a starter during Gold Cup. He didn't have a good Gold Cup. He seemed like at one point of the tournament, he was missing a little bit of confidence, but he has elevated his play again with Club America during this tournament. Have you been able to speak with him, and what do you like to see from him, or how do you see him as a player? Thank you.
I think, listen, I know he's doing a great job with his club. We watch all his games. He's been scoring a lot of goals lately. And, you know, every player, I think, has to adapt to moving their club form into international form. And he's a player that is still working on that. You know, he's a ton. He's a talented player. He's a great player within the team, great player within the group. And for him, it's just about, getting an opportunity and taking advantage of it. Unfortunately, the Gold Cup didn't go so well for him, but now you see there's another opportunity for him. And this is what happens. I talk to players all the time about focus on your club form and opportunities will come. And he's a great example of that. So we're hoping that he can make an impact if he gets the opportunity this camp to get on the field. And, we're hoping he's going to continue to push and be a great guy off the field with the group as he always is.
We have a few more questions, and we'll continue with Joe Lowry.
Hey, thanks, Michael. Thank you, Greg, for taking the time. I appreciate it. You mentioned Brendan Arin, Berlin, and hasn't been especially goal dangerous when he's been on the field. How much of an issue, Greg, is that for you? Are there tangible things that he can improve on that front?
Yeah, I think it's position based. Playing in the midfield in a 3-5-2 can be difficult sometimes to get up and arrive in the penalty box. We've seen him with us play winger position, play attacking midfielder position where he does arrive in the penalty box. There's enough support from behind that he can have the freedom to go forward. And we know he's just a smart soccer player and an opportunistic soccer player. And we know that, in our games, he gets opportunities. So, for us, this is an example of a guy that we just need to give confidence to. It hasn't worked out the way he's liked at his club level. And that happens. I mean, it happens to every player in their career where, they have a setback. And for us, we're really looking for players that can respond to setbacks and to use this as an opportunity to learn and continue to grow.
Next will be Jake Fenner.
Hi, Greg. Thank you, Michael. First, I've got two questions for you, Greg. First, you said the last camp for Gio Reyna was about getting him back to being used to the team and getting him ready to go back to Dortmund. Do you think that he's now set to make a full return to the lineup, and could we possibly see him play a full 90 in either of these games? And second, I want to ask about the striker position. You look at somebody like Jordan Pefok, who's got 3 goals and an assist in his last 2 games, but he wasn't a part of this roster. I'd like for you to possibly speak on that, but also striker was a position that was viewed by some as a bit of a weakness going into the 2022 World Cup. And it seems pretty solidified now that they're Ricardo and Fulleren's job to lose at this point. Do you think with those two that this has been essentially a resolved issue?
I don't think it's a 2-man job. You mentioned Jordan, and I was over in Germany and saw him play live and got to meet with him, and he's doing a great job. Unfortunately, he's injured. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Won't be able to take part in the camp. But he's been doing a great job. Haji Wright has been scoring goals. Jesus Ferreira's got on the board lately. We have a number of guys in position that are knocking on the door. And for us, we want these decisions to be difficult ones, and they certainly are, especially in that position. Regarding Gio, he made a full return to the lineup in last camp. That was our objective. Our objective was to build his fitness, not overloading him and getting him into a position where he can go back to Dortmund and play a role. And he did that. And what the next step looks like is yet to be determined, but we can certainly envision him being on the field and us being able to push his minutes, to help the team win the games.
Last question comes from Andrew Jones.
Thanks, Michael. As always, Greg, hope that you're doing well to start the month of November. Wanted to ask you, besides Matt and Tim Ream, who for you has emerged as a vocal leader probably for this camp with both Tyler and Christian out as someone that can really be communicative on and off the field and be practice during the games? And how was the whole bond with Stefan Pioli over there in Milan with you talking with him when you were over there at AC Milan? Thank you.
It was great. I was able to have lunch with him at the training ground. The menu was fantastic. The pasta is always good in Milan, so that was nice. But more importantly, I think it was about creating a connection. They care deeply about the 2 players we have there and developing them and continue to that they progress in their careers. It was nice to get on the same page with the coaching staff there. Same thing with Juventus. I'm able to sit down with Allegri, sit down with the whole staff at Juventus, and really, see the progress that both Weston and Timmy have made so far this year. In terms of our leaders, there's different type of leaders that we try to encourage, right? There's guys that perform on the field and lead by example. And you have guys like Weston McKennie, who's always, leading by example on the field. You have Serginho Dest that, in these last couple of camps has really shown that he can be a leader on the field. You have leaders off the field that keep things lively. Anthony Robinson's a guy that comes to mind. And then you have guys that people listen to for their experience. And that's a guy like Timmy Ream or Matty Turner. So, we try to build leaders within the leadership council. We use the time that we're together to really foster and grow leadership in our team. And so far, it's been a great way to develop these young players.